is, to me, whether you do something fancy, you know, some kind of, you know, intricate chopping thing, or whether you just straight chop, you know, on the backbeat or whatever, the main thing is where that chop falls, where it hits in the groove. Because if it's not grooving, it doesn't matter how many chops you can play, or, you know, how intricate it is or anything. And so, like, whenever I chop, I try to think of, in terms of, if Sam Bush was chopping the mandolin only on the fiddle, what would that sound like? If Bill Monroe's mandolin chop could be on a fiddle, and the way that falls in the groove, what would that sound like? And yeah, so when you're chopping, when you're playing rhythm for anybody, it's like you're not only playing rhythm, but the thought is to elevate the whole thing. Like the first time I played with Sam Bush chopping mandolin, or the first time I played with Bill Monroe or J.D. Crowe or any of those guys that just had not only impeccable timing but great chops. You know, like a lot of people don't think about banjo chops and how, like J.D. Crowe, Earl Scruggs, and Butch Robbins were three banjo players I played with that their chops were just as big and full as playing with Sam Bush's mandolin chop or Bill Monroe's mandolin chop, which you'd imagine it to be. But so that's the main thing to think about, and that's kind of where I've always came from, is not really how many chops you can do, or really anything more than just laying down the best groove for somebody to play with that you possibly can. And so, having said all that, as far as fiddle-wise, chops, like Benny Martin wasn't necessarily, he didn't chop a whole lot. He did a lot of shuffle kind of thing. But he had that groove. So Benny Martin, if you go find some live recordings of Benny Martin, you know, there's a bunch of them where he just got up there and played with whatever band. You know, it wasn't like he was necessarily in a band. He would show up at Fincastle or Berryville, and Carlton Haney would put together a band, or he would get up with Bill Monroe and Don Reno and a few people would play. And the one thing I always notice when Benny Martin or Scotty Stoneman, or, you know, even back to Sam Bush playing the mandolin, it's like the whole groove of the band changed. It's like whenever Benny Martin got up on stage, they had to play with Benny Martin, because he was going to bring the groove regardless of what the band was doing. So that's kind of always what I wanted to be. I wanted to be able to groove, and that's kind of where I come from on the chop.
Yeah, and I was